Welcome, everybody, to Around the ACL. Michelle Thompson here with Trey Ryder and Jake Brannon. And we've got another open coming up this weekend in West Monroe, Louisiana. That's open number 10. So we're going to talk about who we're going to see there. And it's a pretty good list. I saw it grow quite a bit over the weekend. So I'm excited to talk about who we're going to see. We're going to have Jake and Trey give us their power rankings for singles. We had Trey and Anthony do doubles last week. And then we're going to go into contender or pretender as we get ready for our signature series coming up in April. So not too far off. So anything exciting this weekend, Trey?
No, nothing too exciting on my front. I did get to do the interstate on Saturday. So the South Carolina State Interstate, I called that event. It was cool to see, some of the top players like North and South Carolina do have great players, but we don't always get them at the Rock Hill Regionals. So there was a cool opportunity to get some of the people from the eastern part of the state, that North Carolina, to come over and compete in that. And then we had a nice, appearance from Devin Harbaugh, which is cool to see. So obviously not from the region, doesn't normally play in the events, but for him to show up and compete, it was a cool kind of gauge as some of these players were competing. So that took up most of my time, and then that got me sick. So now I am sick, and if you hear the sniffles throughout the show, I'm sorry, but I spent most of my Sunday just trying to do some chores around the house with a runny nose. So
bummer.
Is what it is.
It happens. What you been up to, Jake? You got a little break now from the last event finally, as you went to the sort of crazy town right before that.
Yeah, right. Three trips and 3 consecutive weekends, 2 days off in between. It felt a little weird. Like my body was so used to traveling on Wednesdays and Thursdays. So when I got to sleep in a little bit on Wednesday morning, it was kind of weird. But no, like having a full free weekend. It was fantastic. Went and played in a local fundraiser cornhole tournament on Saturday. There was like 137 people registered for it. It was massive. We raised a whole bunch of money for one of our local guys who had some trouble, health reasons. So we were able to do that. And Sunday was just a nice relaxation day. Not a lot of sports going on. So just same thing as Trey, did some chores around the house, but it was kind of the exact opposite. Like, I'm fine. My mom has been bedriddenly sick since Saturday afternoon, but I think today's the first day she actually got up out of the house in about 72 hours. Luckily, I haven't caught anything from that yet, so we're good.
Don't say yet. I gotta see you in a few days.
I'll be all right. But no, it was a nice, pleasant, relaxing weekend, something I don't normally get, and I'm so happy that I actually get one of those. But hey, it's back out on the road this weekend. Been going to another city I've never been to before, so it'll be fun to check out West Monroe.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. I have to say, it's cool how cornhole is consistent across the globe. Like, I'm here in California, you're in Maryland, and we also have tournaments for people who have maybe a health issue in the community, and we all come together and everyone shows out and we raise money for them. And that is consistent across cornhole. And I don't know much about other sports, but I don't know if they're doing this quite as much as we are.
Well, I always, one thing I always like to say is that cornhole is becoming, I think, the next and better, look, I'm biased, I'll call it, but it's a better charity tournament than golf, right? Mm-hmm. You can't really have charity football tournaments. Charity basketball tournaments are not very common, but the most common thing for people to do is to have a charity golf tournament, right? And golf is that fundraiser element of what we like to do. Now, the issue I've always said is that how many people can you truly get in a golf tournament, right? I mean, you talk about a foursome, 1 per hole, 18 holes. You're talking, borderline 64 people max that you could probably put in on a golf course. But if you talk about cornhole, you can fill a room full of 200, 300 people to have a big charity element to it. So, and it's reachable by people who aren't just golfers, right? Yeah. And people that are really good at golf, because if you're going to play in a charity golf tournament, you probably got to be pretty good.
You've swung a club before.
Yes. And so
you're not just rolling in there.
That's what I love about what Cornhole is becoming. Cornhole is becoming another charity option for people, and it can be faster paced if you want it to be that way. Because some of the other people, if you're not an avid golfer, you maybe want to participate in an event, but the golf tournament's going to take 4 hours, right? For you, you may just be like, hey, can I just play a couple games of Cornhole, show up for an hour and be done? Like that, for some people, that's what it is. So I just like where our sport is becoming in that way.
Yeah, I do too.
And real quick, Michelle, before we move on, I want to get on a soapbox real quick. I forgot to mention this. So on Friday, I would say a little bit of story time. On Friday, one of our local spots up in Maryland has a really big presence because of the money shot that they have. Like, you draw a ticket, you get to throw bags, and you get a certain amount of the pot. Well, on Friday, there were over 110 people registered because the money shot was over $2,400 a bag. Okay. So everybody's getting excited. Everybody's bought hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of tickets. You got a whole bunch of amateur players that just go there to have fun and drink a beer on a Friday night. And whose ticket gets called? But ACL Pro Logan Dupler.
Oh, geez.
Everybody is booing him. Everybody hates him. And what does he do? He walks up to the board, sinks 3 bags.
He wipes the pot clean.
And walks away from that night making over $8,000. So everybody can get with me in saying this. We all hate Logan Dupler. So that was my big story from Friday night as well. This little 15-year-old snot-nosed kid walking in and taking over 8 G's from everybody on a Friday night.
Hey, that's not a Chance Dupler. You better put some respect on that name.
Not a Chance Dupler, exactly. I was saying, the funny thing is that your takeaway from that is we hate Logan. My takeaway is like, hey kids, time to get into cornhole. What other kid his age just walks away with $8,000 in a night?
Right?
Tell me what other sport gives you that payout. Let's go.
Crazy.
Now, we also have had a pot over 2,000 a bag in the past, and if somebody came and hit 3 bags, I would cry. Because that's what brings our attendance up, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, no, get out of here with that. You're ruining it. All right, let's get into West Monroe. Lots of star-studded players coming out to play. It should be a bigger open here. Trey, who are you looking at?
Well, I think you somewhat undersold it, Michelle, because you said that this one had some good people attending. When you look at this registration list and then you look at our standings, by looking at the standings, we're getting close to that point where you can't really increase your points that much because we're right up against the signatures and only 2 opens count towards your standings as a pro player. But if you're looking at this registration list, of the 9 players right now that are tied for that number 1 World Pro Singles ranking, 8 of them will be in West Monroe. So the number 1 and number 2 seeds for each of the 4 brackets will be occupied by a player that is tied for number 1. That to me is really, really exciting. So that's kind of the theme for me as I look at this. And I think it's an exercise to go through on the singles side and look at each of one of those 2 top rankings. On bracket A, our top 2 seeds are Mark Richards and Jack Gore. I really think that Mark Richards right now is the best player in the world. Spoiler alert for my power rankings, okay? I think he is by far and away number 1, and he should hold that ranking for the foreseeable future. But Jack Gore is someone who is starting to build a number of different wins under his belt, and one that Jake has already said is going to be near the top of his both Rookie of the Year and MVP rankings as we get through this season. In bracket B, we have Sammy Soto and Jacob Trzynski. I think Sammy Soto 3 months ago should have been renowned as the best player in the world and at the highest place in the sport. Not so much that he's fallen off, but that someone else or others have ascended beyond that, and that being Mark Richards. But Sammy Soto still top of his game, every shot in the world. With Jacob Trzynski in his bracket, we know how good Trzynski can be and has been. And since he got his first singles title not too many opens ago, he's going to be fun to watch here at this event. Bracket C, Tony Smith, Ryan Trader. Tony Smith, I think, is right right there as one of the best players in the world right now, has doubles titles, singles titles. He is really someone that is starting to throw really, really good come signature time. We expect that from Tony Smith. He's going to be there at the top. But I think Ryan Trader is an interesting case because he is somebody that in particular was dominant at the first couple opens, first part of the season back in the fall. But something is different. And so the focal point for me is for this particular bracket is Ryan Trader going to get back into the form that he was in 2024 when he was at times the best player in the world and other times easily a top 5 player in the world. Then finally, bracket D, I have Zach Aiken and Ethan Walker. Zach Aiken, the only junior pro that has that title. He is not an ACL pro, but he is a junior pro, and he's still ranked number 1 right now. He just won an interstate in Las Vegas. Tony Smith was at that event, okay? Right now, he's got a lot of energy and focus on him. I am always skeptical when you get a junior that flies to the top of the rankings so fast, how they are able to handle that. I don't think we're going to see a descent from Zach Aiken in the near future, but the question is how long can he keep this up? Because you guys have known my theory about juniors is that they can't be good for more than 8 months at a time, right? I think Aiken is peaking at an ideal time to have some success across the first few signatures. The question will be, can he continue that all the way through the World Championships? And with Ethan Walker in his bracket, arguably the best shot maker in the world, if not for Eric Davis, who's the 3 seed in this bracket. It's going to be a fun bracket to watch to see how Zach Aiken, not necessarily known for being a shot maker, goes up against, I would say, 2 of the best shot makers in the world. So it's really fun. I think the top 8 seeds make for a great storyline that you all have them tied for number 1. And whoever emerges out of this field has the ability to say that they are the best player in the world heading into the signature season.
All right, maybe I undersold it a little bit, but it works. All right, Jake, who are you looking at?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was a little skeptical before looking at the registration list coming into this event as well, just because, when you think of the big cities that we go to, we're going to Brighton, Michigan next week. That'll be a really big one. All these East Coast, like Rock Hill, we'll be in Florida in a couple weeks. Like a lot of these venues are going to get a lot of players. And when I think West Monroe, Louisiana, I don't necessarily think of that because we're a couple of hours from New Orleans. There's just a small regional airport, so it's hard to find direct flights into Monroe. So off the top of my head, I'm just thinking there's not going to be a lot of people here. But boy, was I proven wrong with the amount of star power that is going to be in this field. Trey hit a lot on singles, so I'll take a look at some of these other divisions, like the women's division, and I touched on this a little bit in my preview that'll be published later this week. I mean, the women's, we have the 3-headed monster of Florida women. That's what I like to call, and that's Cheyenne Bubenheim, Sarah Cassidy, and Florida Interstate Open Singles champion Samantha Finley. They're all 3 going to be in attendance. That already boosts the level of what this women's division is going to look at. But you also have other players like Elizabeth Tennyson, who's going to be there, Kimberly Jenkins, Zena Ramirez, Deborah Odom. This women's division is going to be stacked as well. I mean, we talk about seniors, Damon Dennis, Frank Modlin will be in attendance. They haven't won a single thing all year on the senior side. Will they get something good to go their way? I don't know. But then we move into the junior side. And again, as always, when it comes to these opens, the junior field is stacked. I mean, let's just look at some of these names we got. We got Zach Aiken, Hayden Gonzalez, Braden Wilson, Gabe Clausen, Cash Chamness, Ethan Farias, Emax, Jaden Ellis, Zane Cross, Levi Haddock, Bryce Forbes, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. But there's also Ryan Trader, and I know you alluded to it a little bit earlier, Trey, but Ryan Trader is one of those guys that I'm going to have my eye on all weekend long for a multitude of different reasons. The main reason being, and it's no surprise to anybody, Ryan Trader is in a little bit of a slump. Hasn't performed well at any of the big events that he's been to recently. A lot of people calling it a case of the yips. I don't like saying that word, but I'm not sure if he's been able to get out of that slump. It's been a few weeks since I've seen him, so I'm gonna have my eye set on Ryan Trader this entire weekend as we go along. But man, I want to talk about doubles because you got to think this is the second to last event before we get into the signature season. So you have to think we're going to see a lot of true pro partners playing together, not only to work on their chemistry, but to also, iron out any kinks that they may have coming into April. You're going to get teams like Chris Roybal and Ryan Hart. Chris Roybal had a fantastic rookie season last year, but haven't seen a lot of him this year. Roybal and Hart played for just the first time since Rock Hill in Albuquerque, and they went 0-2. So that's a team that, on paper, I think they can have a pretty good top 30, maybe top 25 double season, but they have to get together. They have to play well at this event and iron out any of these kinks, I would say, before the signature season starts, so they don't go with their head underwater. You know what I mean? Just looking at other teams, Zach Scheibner and Gage Landis will be in attendance here. Haven't seen them play together in quite some time. I'm curious to see what they can do because they had a national championship last year. You got teams like Landon Crabtree and Fisher Hamilton who are in their first season together. You don't know a lot of what they're going to be able to do because they haven't been playing together a lot. And another team I'm really interested in is Jimmy Humans and Ian Cripps. Obviously, this is another first-year team playing together. Ian Cripps in his home state. He had a lot of success here last year on the national television stage. I like this team a lot on paper, but again, it's about that chemistry. They don't have a lot of it yet. Jimmy Human's trying to work on being towards that mentor towards the young buck in Ian Cripps, and I'm really curious to see what they can do. I love them as a team on paper, and I'm curious to see what they can do. But then we also move into some players who aren't necessarily playing with their designated pro partner. I love this team of Chris Kingsbury and Kyle Malone, just two of those veteran Florida players who are coming out a little bit west to play in this tournament. That'll be a really fun one. There's also a good team of Colby Shearer and Jacob Trzynski playing together. That team really piqued my interest because, they throw different styles of cornhole bags. They're not regionally based, so I'm not sure what caused this team to pair up, but I like it a lot, especially with the tenacity that Jacob Trzynski has. Just looking through the rest of this list, there's going to just so many doubles teams that I have my eye out for. I like that Austin Waskow, Quinn Reeves team. I like Braden Wilson, AJ Sims. Looking through some of these teams, Cody Henderson, Ethan Walker, another first-year team that needs to figure something out before the signature season starts because they've both been good individually, but they haven't been able to put their chemistry together yet. Same thing with Devin Harbaugh and Jeremiah Ellis. They are going down to play together. All in all, absolutely stacked field this weekend. I know Trey mentioned it a lot, but it is going to be absolutely incredible to watch. And if you're not tuning in this weekend, I don't know what you're doing because it is going to be an absolute blast, Michelle.
Is it Colby Shearer and Jacob Trzynski? Could those be like any more opposite personality or like energies?
That's going to be kind of a weird dynamic to watch, to be honest with you. So
one is so happy and one is so not.
Yeah. The only thing to add for me on doubles is I talked about how the top eight players take the top two rankings in singles. I look back at my doubles power rankings from last week. 8 of those teams are playing in this event as well. So when you talk about stack level talent, now I had 2 halves that kind of come together there. So half of one team. It was like 7 full teams and then a half one, half or another or something like that. But still, a lot of great talent in the doubles brackets too.
One more thing. I'm just off the top of my head because I'm looking through these brackets. Jamie Graham, Eric Davis playing doubles together, but because they're not true pro doubles partners and haven't played together this season, they are a 47 seed. So sorry to the 18 seed, Zach Engelken, Brandon Martinez. Your first game is against the reigning Spencer McKenzie's champions in Jamie Graham and Eric Davis.
No big deal. All right, well, that'll be fun. Back together. All right, let's get into our power rankings. We're going to start it off with you, Trey, and we're going to start you off with number 10.
All right, my number 10 right here. This is somebody who we know at any given point could come out and win the entire thing. Hasn't got a signature win this season, has been close, but you know they're going to be there when it's time to show up. I get number 10, Trey Birchfield, the reigning singles world champion at number 10. He'll be ready come signature time. He might get one. If not, he'll be close every step of the way. I got no doubt about that.
All right, Jake.
Yeah, number 10 for me. It's another player that does not necessarily have a win this season. He's actually my only player on my top 10 who does not have a pro elite singles or doubles win this season. But again, he's a player who has been very close. Trey alluded to it earlier. He's one of the best shot makers in the entire pro division. My number 10 pick is Ethan Walker.
Moving on to number 9, Trey.
Well, not much to add there. My number 9 is Ethan Walker. I agree that, you talk about it, runner-up. He's won some brackets. He's tied for that number 1 ranking. He can hit something at any point this season. Interesting statistic that Jake brought up, that he has not won an event thus far this year. That's actually a little bit surprising to me. I think he's played well enough at times. He'll do well. The other thing to consider is that as we go down to West Monroe, I expect it to be pretty humid anytime we get near the swamp of Louisiana, that you're just going to get sticky conditions. That always is going to bode well for Ethan Walker. So I expect him to have a really successful run even this weekend coming up, but he sits at number 9 in my power rankings.
Number 9 for Jake.
Number 9 for me, I kind of calling an audible real quick. That's not an audible, but I'm just moving him down the list after I look at it again. But number 9, I mean, he has a doubles title this year. He has multiple good singles finishes, and I think this could be the weekend that he finally gets over that hump. But until then, I can't really put him higher than 9. For my 9th pick, give me Gavin Cano.
Wow, number 9. All right. Trey, what do you got number 8?
I don't have Cano in my top 10.
Whoa.
So that is he would be right. He was right on that fringe. I think he's maybe 13 or 14 for me, but I can't say it's too bad of a choice to have him sitting there at number 9. All right, so moving on to number 8 for me. This is going to be very controversial, but I'm very hesitant about just throwing someone near the top of a ranking. I have Zach Aiken. I know some people would have Zach Aiken number 1, number 2, number 3 right now. I have him at number 8. Part of that is consistency. We know his upside. We know that he can win the entire thing. I'm not arguing against that. I am just worried by nature when I get an under 18 player that consistently plays really, really well. There's going to be a span of 3 months. And you know what? Maybe he goes into the first signature and he wins the first signature. That's very well the case. But I'm just always hesitant about where we are. I wanted to say I was going to put him at number 10 and just say that's where he needs to be until he can prove he can continue to win. But I think he's won enough now that he starts to creep up this list. And every single event from here on out that he continues to have a top 5 finish, he will continue to climb my rankings. But his starting point right now is number 8.
I don't hate it. You hate it, Jake?
I'm not the biggest fan of it, especially considering who my number 8 is. My number 8, I mean, I got to give him credit. He already has a singles and an open doubles title this year, but in my defense, it was at the earlier part of the season. He went on a little bit of a hiatus, and, from what I've seen so far, I haven't really, especially with the recency bias that I have right now, it's kind of hard for me to justify putting him higher than this. For number 8, gotta go with Devin Harbaugh.
Okay, I was not expecting that either. All right. Trey, what do you think about that?
Number 7, Devin Harbaugh. So I'm in agreement. I had a chance to watch Devin Harbaugh this weekend at the Interstate Tournament. I saw him walk up against Jamie Graham. I said, Jamie Graham's been a little bit more consistent. Jamie Graham is going to beat Devin Harbaugh. Devin Harbaugh threw an 11-3 and beat him 21-2. I said, okay, I'm an idiot. Devin Harbaugh gets assigned the next game. He gets beat 21-2 by Colby Shearer throwing an 8-5. Okay, that is the story. Here's an interesting development too. For those that did not watch the Interstate for South Carolina this weekend, Devin Harbaugh has changed his technique. He has gone from a very wide stance. Everybody knows his wide stance. His feet were almost together as he threw the interstate this weekend. When we talk about a technique change, that always brings me a little bit of worry, unless you're someone like a Jamie Graham or a Matt Guy who has a consistent pattern of doing that over the past few years. Harbaugh doesn't have that. That's why it worries me. I genuinely think Harbaugh is a 1 through 4 player in the world. But when you start changing a technique and you're throwing 8 5s this close to a signature, to me, he's down the list and sits at number 7.
I mean, he's got a month, Trey. You don't think he could do it in a month?
He can, but right now he's got to sit. He's got to sit at number 7 for me. But he's still got the upside.
Now I noticed that change in motion too. Did you ask him about that at all? Like why he decided to change everything up, or?
Yeah, he said he went 0-2 in New Jersey's interstate, and he said I got to change something. So he literally changed it a week ago today, and that's when he made that switch.
Wow. Okay, that is crazy. All right, moving into my number 7. I guess you can call this controversial because I could advocate moving him up more, but the only reason I haven't moved him up more is because everybody above him has at least one singles title. This man has 2 doubles titles, but has a couple of really strong singles finishes, but no singles titles. Give me the magician Eric Davis as my number 7 pick. I mean, he's had a great campaign so far, but I just want to see him get over that hump on the singles side as well.
Trey?
Yeah, interesting. We're close again, Jake. I don't have Davis at 6, but I have Jack Gore at 6. I think Jack Gore is, and if I didn't know the history of Jack and Jake Gore, I think I would put Jack higher. But just because I know, I know who they are on the boards, and I think to an extent, it's going to be interesting to watch Jack and Jake in doubles this year, because they split up for a reason. They're getting back together. I'm interested to see how they perform. My only worry for Jack Gore when it comes to singles is that does his doubles performance or anything rub off on him as a singles player in that regard and alter the way he thinks about or approaches the game? I do believe he is the best player in the Rock Hill area right now, and that is saying something about the level of talent that we continue to see in the area. He's the highest rank that comes from that region. I expect him to have a successful season. I have him at number 6.
Number 6, Jake.
10-7-5 over 140 rounds is your 6? That's crazy. That's crazy. Now for my six, I mentioned it just a second ago. Everybody from here on out has at least one singles title this season, and number 6, I think he fits right in this list right here. We mentioned him earlier when we talked about who's going to be here this weekend. My number 6, Jacob Trzynski, has a singles and a doubles title, but it's hard justifying putting him over my top 5 right now, but still a heck of a season so far.
All right, moving into the top 5, Trey.
All right, number 5, already been said by Jake. I have Eric Davis. I think he had him at 7. For me, 5, I am using a little bit of bias, and I know what Eric Davis can do. I use a balance of who do I think is going to win with who is good right now, what have you done for me lately, but also what have you done historically for my power rankings. There's absolutely a case for Davis to be a little bit closer to 10, just because he hasn't gotten that singles victory, as we've said, but he's there time and time again. He's consistently playing at a high level in every tournament that he participates in. We know that he's going to have a good, solid finish. I got Eric Davis at number 5.
Number 5, Jake.
Number 5, I mentioned earlier, 2 or 3 months ago, I could very easily see myself putting this man at 2, 3, maybe even 1. But as he's kind of simmered down a little bit, I'm comfortable putting him in my 5. Sammy Soto has both a singles and a doubles title this year. Absolutely phenomenal season so far. Probably one of the most stacked tournaments all season at Myrtle Beach on the singles side. So yeah, give me Sammy Soto for my 5 pick.
Number 4, Trey.
Oh, the Soto fan club, not going to like that one, Jake. They are not going to like that one bit. One bit. Moving on to number 4 for me, I have Jacob Trzynski. You had him a little bit lower, but for me, Trzynski is someone that has mastered now the mental side of the game. Within the past few opens, he has a doubles victory and he has a singles victory. The recency bias on both of those fronts is enough for me to have him in the top 5. He's going to be tough to beat at any point this season.
All right, Jake.
If you thought the Sammy Soto fans hated this one, the fan group of this person is going to hate it even more. Number 4 pick, a singles title, 2 doubles titles already this season. I tried my best not to let the recency bias get to me too much because I also tried to incorporate what he has done earlier in the season. My number 4 pick, Tony Smith. I mean, I think he's great. I think he is currently climbing up the rankings as we speak, but I'm comfortable putting him at my 4 slot right now.
Trey? He loves it. He loves that pick.
Uh-oh.
Tony Smith at 4. Give me a break. Tony Smith's not number 4. He's not number 3 either, because number 3 is Sammy Soto. Okay, Sammy Soto, one of the most skilled players in the world, has every shot imaginable. I think he is the A player on a Soto-Kano doubles team. I know we're not talking doubles rankings, but there's a reason why I have them as a pick to win team of the year. I think Sammy Soto is going to play his best. Last year was a learning experience for him. People had such high expectations for him. This year he's playing a lot more loose. He's playing at an extremely high level. I expect him to contend with the best of them. I got Sammy Soto at number 3.
Number 3, Jake.
10-7-5, over 140 rounds at the South Carolina Interstate Tournament. Already has a singles title this year. Finished 2nd overall in Myrtle Beach as well. Jackson Gore is my number 3 pick. You mentioned it. He's the best player currently in the Rock Hill area. I could beg to say that he's one of the best players on the East Coast entirely. Give me Jackson Gore as my 3.
What do you think, Trey?
One thing I always worry about when it comes to Gore, just one other thing, is that the dominance that he's having in Rock Hill right now, Rock Hill tends inside the HQ to have more moderate to slow conditions. And if we can guarantee that board conditions across the length of the season, I would not fight you in any way, shape, or form for Gore to be a top 3 player. I am worried that as we go to these different opens, we get into certain instances. If the boards play a little bit moderate to above moderate speed, he's not the guy that I expect to have the versatility to change his game up. And that's what I need if I'm talking about a top 3 player. From my perspective, when he won in Myrtle Beach, again, a little bit slow, crowded room. It gets a little slow in there. So that's just my little tidbit there. Number 2, it's Tony Smith. I think there's an argument to be made that he could be at times the best player in the world. He has the singles. He has the doubles, multiple doubles. When he has bad days, it's because he's bored. Tony Smith going into an event that he's wanted to win has never had a bad finish in singles. I continue to think that he is one of the smartest IQ players in the sport. He knows it like the back of his hand, and he also has the right mentality that when he walks up to a board, the only way I'm losing is if it's the bag's fault, right? It's the only way he can lose. Okay, and that's the mentality that he has. He's starting to kick into gear. They just won a doubles. He's just tough to beat. I got him at number 2.
Number 2, Jake.
My number 2. I mean, I guess it could be the recency bias showing, but I mean, we gotta think about it, man. You have a singles title. He's made the overall finals in the last 2 events, including a head-to-head win against both of our number 1 ranked players in the world right now. Not to mention a dominating performance at the Nevada Interstate last weekend. Number 2 for me is Zach Aiken, and I think he has what it takes, recency bias or not. He is one of the hottest players on the face of the planet right now, and that's what it is.
Well, you're number 1.
I'm doing Zach Aiken a favor by not putting him where you're putting him. Because he deserves to be number 2 right now. But I'm not putting him there because you have to do it over an extended period of time. And some people are going to watch this and go, well, you're giving these people the benefit of the doubt, and Zach doesn't get it because I know what they've done before, and I know where they can be, and I know the consistency. This is the best thing for Aiken right now is to have some level of doubt from somebody.
Well, how long is an extended period of time in your books? Because he finished 2nd overall in Myrtle Beach, which was in December. He won Albuquerque, which was in February, and now he just won.
You're talking 75 days. We're talking 75 days. We're gonna talk about. I mean, you're gonna vault this person to the number 2 player in the world.
Well, I'm not.
Right?
I mean, I feel like it's been longer than 75 days. I mean, he's been great. It's not like he just for some reason got really good in Myrtle Beach. He's been great for a long period of time before that. Just in Myrtle Beach, he just happened to break through for the first time. And now because he's broken through, he's able to experience what it's like to win. And now he understands what it takes to win these big events and can continuously get better and better.
That's why he's the number 8 best player in the world.
Oh my goodness, insulting. Well, I was gonna say your number 1s are now anticlimactic, both of you, by the way. Not very exciting.
Yeah, it's a little bit boring. Look, all right, I got Mark Richards, right? I genuinely think we may continue to have battles between Mark Richards and Zach Aiken. We've seen it in a couple different opens here, right? I'll continue to reiterate, Zach Aiken will thank me later. As Nick Saban would say, if Zach Aiken starts taking all the rat poison that you guys are giving him, then it's going to have a negative effect on his career. Okay. Somebody posted out there that Zach Aiken isn't the best player on his bag sponsor team. I thought that was a little bit funny, right? Only because Mark Richards and Tony Smith are also Lucky Bags players, right? It's kind of funny. And Zach's response was, as long as I'm top 3 on the bag company team, I'm fine. And that's the mentality that I don't like. He should take a little bit of that with a grain of salt and also use it as somewhat of a momentum. So you're welcome. When Zach Aiken gets through the ebbs and flows, and after he comes down, he comes back up because he listens to people like me, he can thank me later. Number 1, I got Mark Richards. Richards is the best player in the world. He's playing as consistent as he's ever played. Every shot is going in. He's hit air mails on a ridiculous pace. And I would argue that this level of Mark Richards rivals any stretch of Mark Richards' career that we've seen him playing at a high level. It's truly impressive to see, and I don't see him falling off that mountaintop anytime soon.
Yeah. No, first of all, I love the Nick Saban quote. It makes sense. It's probably why he owns Dabo Swinney in his entire career. So shout out Nick Saban. For
Whoa. Not even close.
Well, anyway, my number 1, also Mark Richards. I mean, you mentioned it. Only person in the entire pro division to have multiple singles titles this year. He's got that doubles title as well. And I mean, kind of took the words right out of my mouth. This right now, what we are witnessing from Mark Richards rivals or is better than any point that we have ever seen of Mark Richards, back to his gladiator days, back to those bright pink 36 out of 36 perfect game type of days from Mark Richards. I mean, this is an exceptional run we're seeing. And if you're somebody else in the pro division, when those brackets come out, I think the one thing you're hoping is that you do not have Mark Richards in your bracket. Because if you do, I mean, it's kind of almost a lost cause. That is how dominant he is right now. And I mean, when I interviewed him last week for the article that is now out on the website, check it out on iPlayCornhole.com. I mean, he mentioned he loves the challenge because when he goes from doubles with Tony Smith, he's throwing those Pro Sniper Elites, which are a bag that is a significantly slower than the OG snipers that he throws in singles. He said he loves the challenge of being able to have to go from a slower bag to a fast bag. So can you even imagine what he would be doing if he was throwing a fast bag consistently all weekend? It would be insurmountable almost. So the fact that he's going from this slow bag to this fast bag, and the fact that he loves having to change his throw style, to compete in singles, and he is still outperforming almost everybody in the world right now is insane to think about. So, I mean, it's a no doubt Mark Richards number 1 on the power rankings for both of us.
Yep. Well, he definitely deserves it. We'll see how he performs this weekend alongside Tony Smith, but let's get into contender or pretender. So do these players have a chance to win a signature event? Starting off with Jake's favorite, Logan Dupler. Jake, put your bias aside. Can he do it?
I think so. I mean, I have him as a contender right now. I mean, he, all said and done, the kid is a Rookie of the Year nominee for a reason. I mean, he hasn't gotten over that hump yet. He hasn't done what Zach Aiken's done. I mean, Gabriel Clausen is up there as well in those Rookie of the Year rankings as well. But I mean, he's real close getting over that hump. He does have that doubles title in his back pocket from earlier in the year. So absolutely. I mean, it's tough to say right now, but I would put him as a contender for sure.
Trey?
Gosh, I really want to just say not a chance. I really just want to say it, but I think there's an outside shot. I'll put contender. I don't love it. I do still think that he's not quite there yet, but he reminds me of one of those guys that on any given day is just gonna just have the best day out of anybody, and then he'll go back to a 25th place finish, a 30th place finish. I don't see him as a top 10 player, but there's going to be one event where he's going to scare some people. And so because of that, if that's what we're talking about, we're not talking about top 10 ranking. We're talking about winning one event. I'll go contender.
All right, Jake, Colby Shearer and Matt Wilson.
Another team that has just, I've just kicked under the rug on around the ACL so far this season, and I'm going to continue to do it. I think they're pretenders. And I'm not saying that because I think they're a bad team. I'm saying that because I think there are just a lot of other top-tier teams who have proven so far that they can win and win the big moments. And Colby Shearer and Matt Wilson, I have not really seen that out of them so far this year on the open circuit. And if they can't do that on the open circuit when you're playing, when you're just in a big building with amateurs as well, how can you do that on the big stage under the bright lights? I would love to see Colby Shearer continue to do it for Jake Brandon. That's what he's been saying all year. But I just don't see it right now. So to me, they are pretenders.
Trey?
Yeah, I love Matt Wilson, becoming one of my favorite pro players. But I'm going to say pretender. They're not ready yet. I see them on a regular basis. They can make some deep runs, but winning an entire event, I just don't think they're ready.
Zach Scheibner, Jake?
I'm going to have to go pretender on this one. And again, I love Zach Scheibner. He's one of my favorite pros in the entire division. But I just haven't really seen that strong singles run yet this weekend. And there's nothing to make me really believe that he can win. You also got to think personal side. He has a kid on the way. He's got a baby coming. So you got to start questioning how much of his head is actually in this, considering he's going to be missing at least one event, with the birth of his child imminent. So pretender for now. I just don't know. I haven't seen anything to prove me otherwise.
Having a kid worked pretty well for Harbaugh. I don't know.
That's true.
Trey, what do you got?
Yeah, it's pretender. But if we had done this same exact exercise last year, and you had asked me, and instead of Zach Scheibner, this had said Zach Scheibner and Gage Landis to win a national in national doubles, I would have also said pretender.
That is true.
Guess what they did? They did the damn thing. Okay. So for me, I still think it's pretender, but this guy lives to be an underdog, and it fuels him. So we'll see. We'll see if it helps.
Eddie Grindersleeve and Dylan Turpin. What do you think, Jake?
To me, they're contenders, man. I'm telling you. You got to think, Eddie Grindersleeve is a former 2-time national champion and a former world champion. Dylan Turpin, especially the kickoff battle. Everybody knows the story with Dylan Turpin. He's finished one game away from broadcast on both singles and doubles at the kickoff battle multiple years in a row. Together, I love them. I love them as a team. Not only are they together on a pro doubles team, they're also together on the Texas Bully Baggers. So you're going to have a lot of chemistry working together with them. They're regionally based out of Texas and Oklahoma for Dylan Turpin. To me, I can really see this being a top 15 team, maybe even squeak into that top 10 as the season progresses. They are contenders for sure for me.
Agree, Trey?
Contenders. What do you look for in a team that's going to win these? Experience, got it. Is going to show consistency across an entire tournament, got it. Has the mental ability to fight through it, got it. Shot selection, got it. There's really not much more you can ask for. I think these guys are easy contenders. I expect them to win a bracket, maybe multiple this season. And if you get that close, you got to be in the mix to win something. So I'm saying contender.
Dave Morse, Jake.
I'm gonna have to say pretender, and it's no slack towards David Morris, because I feel like he's having one of the best seasons of his personal career so far on the singles side. But and again, it goes back to Zach Scheibner. There's nothing that I've seen so far that makes me think he can hang with these Mark Richards and these Tony Smiths and these Zach Akins, right? Because obviously he has what it takes to finish third, fourth, fifth in a bracket, but I haven't seen him get over that hump and get to that bracket final or a third place game to make me think that he can contend with these other guys. So I have to go Pretender.
Trey?
I want to say Contender so bad. I like Dave a lot. I think he's one of those guys that I think of it. I think of him as the veteran that gets traded that has never won a Super Bowl, but then gets traded to a really good team. And you're just like, this guy's put in the time. You're rooting for him. You just want to see him get a ring type of things, right? And so I think that embodies Dave Morris. I'm really rooting for him. I'm hoping he can have his best season yet. As far as winning a singles event at a signature, just tough for me to be able to buy into that. I gotta say Pretender.
Last one, Chad Hunt and Tommy Sliker. Jake?
Yeah, this one was kind of confused me because like I want to keep saying Pretender for these two. But you got to think, I'm pretty sure they were a top 10, top 15 throughout the season last year, and nobody really talked about them at all. And I think we're giving them the same exact treatment so far this year. And what are they going to do? Probably be another top 10, top 15 team. Nobody understands it. I don't understand it. Why are they so good? Nobody's talking about them. But here they are just consistently having top finishes in these brackets, and there is nothing that makes me believe that won't happen again this year. So I have to say Contender for Chad Hunt and Tommy Sliker.
Trey?
Yeah, I'm going to say Pretender. I get where Jake is going here, but at the same time, to me, they are day ruiners. That's their role right now, because I'll tell you what, are they going to get into a bracket and get into a winner's semifinal against a Mark Richards and Tony Smith and beat them one event? Yes, it's going to happen. They're going to send somebody home or put somebody in the loser's bracket more than once this year, 3, 4, 5 times. The problem is right now, and I see it from Tommy Sliker. Tommy is one of the most frustrating players for me because sometimes I watch him and I go, that guy is a top 15 player in the world. And then the next game, what is this guy doing? Like, it's not even in the same stratosphere as someone that can compete on this level. So I just, until I see some level of overall consistency at the pro level of winning brackets and being there towards the end, I got to say Pretender, but I will bank on the fact that they will ruin multiple top players' days across the weekend.
All right,
Let the record show. I played in one Rock Hill Regional this year. Game 1, I played Tommy Sliker. He threw an 11-4. I scored 0 points. The next game, he threw an 8-4, got absolutely smoked, and I was so pissed. I said, "What the hell are you doing?" And he's like, "I don't know." I was like, "Okay, thanks,
Okay.
Tommy Sliker."
That's
That just goes exactly to what you say, Trey. So,
all right, it's hot take time. Trey, what's your hot take?
All right, I talked all about the singles brackets. I talked about Mark Richards, Jack Gore, Sammy Soto. 8 players that are tied for number 1 in the world right now are in this field, taking up the top 2 seeds in every single singles bracket. None of them win singles this weekend. It is somebody outside of those top 8. Everything I've just been hyping up. Some likely candidates I'm looking towards: Trey Birchfield, Adam Hissner, Alex Rawls, JBJ, Eric Davis. There's a number of different names in there that could get the job done.
Jake, what do you got?
this is what I'm feeling like. I feel like a storm is brewing. You know what I mean? We're in the bayou. We're in Louisiana. What's right next to Louisiana? Texas. Who's going to be the main producer this weekend in Louisiana? Chase Hunter from Texas. I'm feeling like it's going to be an all Texas weekend, and there's nothing we can do about it. I think Gavin Cano comes out of nowhere and wins singles, and I think Justin Burton Jr. and Logan Chamberlain win doubles this weekend, and there is absolutely nothing we can do, and Chase Hunter will wear his cowboy hat and laugh in all of our faces.
He will be insufferable.
Insufferable. I hate this hot take. All right, mine is we talked about Colby Shearer and Jacob Brzezinski. I think it's a very strange pairing. I don't know if it's going to be great or awful, but I'm picking them to win. Why not? I think you can do it, boys. I can't wait to watch it. That's for sure. But we are out of time, so we will see you all in Louisiana. Thanks so much for tuning in.